And so yeah.
So now, what kind of dog was it? It was a purebred husky, or what?
He was a husky lab mix.
Husky lab mix. Now, tell us about your dog. Did he come with a name, or did you give him a name?
Well, while I was walking him, I was just volunteering, and I was just calling out random names because I don't typically do that. I don't typically name the dogs there. I just for some reason for this dog I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna call you something. I was calling really, really seriously random names, like really random. And I don't even know why I said mango, but I said mango because I never even tasted a mango at that point in my life. It was really weird. But I said mango, and the dog just kind of glanced at me, and I was like, you know what? You look like a mango. Very tropical in a good way. And so I just called him Mango, and then...
And your parents let him bring you home? Let him bring you home?
No, they didn't. I went home after that, and I started my usual routine, and I went a little above and beyond. I cleaned out our entire basement. I was like, hey, look at this! And so they're like, oh, okay. And then my parents were going out of town, so that was kind of it was a really, really bad timing, actually. And so it was a Wednesday. My mom checked me out of school, and I'm like, oh gosh, what happened? So I didn't know she was going to check me out. I was like, oh goodness. And she's like, hey, we're just going to go see that dog or whatever that you were talking about all the time. And we're just going to check it out, and then we're going to go eat with your dad. I was like, okay. And so we went, and I looked for him in the kennels. I ran in there so fast, lightning could not have hit me if it wanted to. And I ran in there really fast. And so I looked through all the kennels, and I'm like praying. I'm like, okay, God, I really feel like this is the dog you want, but I don't know where he is. And I'm just looking, and I got to the last kennel, and I hadn't seen him, and I was like, oh. And so I stepped over to the last kennel, and it's empty. And I was like, oh no. So I was trying to hold myself together, because I was like, oh man. And so then my mom's coming, trying to keep up with me, and she's like, oh, I'm like, Mom, I don't know where he is. And so we go up to the front, and I said, do you know if G80 got adopted? And she's like, yeah, he did. And I was like, oh. And Mom was like, ask him who adopted him. And I was like, who adopted him? She's like, I think you adopted him. And that was just I lost it. I just started breaking down. I was just like, oh. And it was incredible.
So your mom that surprised you. That's awesome. So now you got Mango. Mango's a great dog, and you began to train him, doing all some cool things. But actually what's kind of interesting is that we actually have Mango with us tonight. How about introduce Mango to the rest of everybody?
All right. Mango, come here, buddy. Come here. Come on. Come on, Mango. Come over here. Come here. Jump up. Come here. Yay, good boy. Good dog.
Man, I had
Mango.
dogs that never did that. I gotta say, when they walked in earlier today, when they walked in, you made him sit right there as you put stuff up, and he stayed. I'm like, whoa! I don't have teenagers that do that. That's amazing. That's amazing. How can we get them? Now, you began to train them yourself. I mean, you started training them. And you actually don't just train them sit and that kind of stuff. I mean, you actually take them to these kind of competitions with things. Describe what those are kind of like.
All right. Well, I started training him as soon as I got him. I went through an obedience class with him at Lake Lanier Obedience Club. It's 5 minutes from here. And I started training him for agility myself and everything. And after a while of training him, and so he got to know the different obstacles. If you don't know what agility is, it's the tunnels and the jumps and all that stuff. And I started doing that, and then I started competing in agility competitions. And I have some ribbons over there, but I can show you guys those later. But so I just started doing that, and you can't actually win an agility trial. It's kind of more for your jump height. So he jumps 24 inches. So he competes against all the dogs in 24 inches. And so he has tons of first place ribbons, and I kind of feel bad for some of the other people. And then he's gotten a couple high-end trials, which is you did the best out of everybody at the trial. And I only have 2 of those, and I'm competing for a couple years, 2 or 3 years now. So
that's cool. Now, but the coolest thing I think that Courtney does with Mango is not just, she doesn't do these competitions with training and here do this. One of the coolest things, and I got to see this at your school, is that you actually use these tricks that you've learned and you actually use them as an illustration of how to share the gospel with people. You were at Mill Creek and you invited me to come, and I got to come see it in action. It was way cool because all the tricks, I mean, there's a lesson you learn with every trick and how it relates to Mango and Courtney and how it actually relates to us and God. It's great illustrations. And so what gave you the idea of actually using your dog to share the gospel? I mean, it's a great idea.
Well, I was in 8th grade. I was in 8th grade, and I went to this girls' Christian conference called the Revolve Tour. And it's really awesome. If you girls have never gone, you totally should go. It's awesome. And they had this one speaker. It was in 2009. His name was Austin Gutwein. And he, when he was 9 years old, started this organization called Hoops of Hope. And it's basically the world's largest basketball free throw shoot-a-thon. And it really inspired me because he started it when he was only 9, and I was like, wow, if he can use a basketball to reach out to kids in Africa, then go sit. And then what could God use me to do with my dogs? And so I was like, okay, I really felt like God was just saying, all right, this is what I want you to do. I want you to use Mango specifically to, tell people about Christ. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I go home and I told the FCA person at my middle school. I was like, hey, I would love to come and do something with Mango. And she said, sure, absolutely. So I did my first demo with him there. It was in 2009, November 2009. And so it was like only a month after the Revolve Tour. And then after that, I sent out like 60 emails to all these churches in this area. And guess how many replies I got back? 2. I got back 2 replies from 60 churches. And I was like, wow, okay. And one didn't even count because it was like, hey, thanks for emailing me. So I was like, and I ended up doing another demo at Ivy Creek Baptist Church. And then I was kind of like, wow, God, okay, I really felt like you were calling me to do this. And I'm like, all right, this is kind of surprising. And so I was just like, okay then, you do what you want to do. I trust you. You know what you're doing. And this is what's really cool. Okay, so when you go out on the agility course, you take your dog over a warm-up jump really quick, and it's just to kind of get them in the mood, get them ready, get them saying, all right, this is what you're gonna do. And then after that, you go out on the course and you tell them to stay. You take a lead out. And then you look back at your dog, and only when the time is right, and the judge says, okay, you can go, do you call your dog? But your dog has to wait. And they can't move forward or they get disqualified. So I kind of feel like God may be the dog in that situation. And he's obviously the handler taking me through the course. And it's really neat because I did those 2 demos in 2009. And that was like going over the warm-up jump. All right, here's just a taste of what you're about to do. It's just kind of like what this is a warm-up. And then he took me out on the course and he said, stay. I didn't do any demos the entire year of 2010, but that year was the first year I went to student camp, and it was also, I went on my first mission trip, and that was most definitely the year I learned the most about God. And it was where I grew so close to him, and I learned so much, and I just really, really grew closer to my relationship to Christ. And it was when, he really just was speaking to me and teaching me things and getting me prepared. And then now I just kind of feel like once I did that demo at my school, it was kind of like God just saying, all right, the time is right, now let's go. And so I'm really excited how God even used that little analogy in my life so that I can share it with people.
And what's really cool is that you've got other opportunities. She was just last week over at TNT showing all those kids using it, doing a demo for them. And I heard all kinds of stuff about that. They love that. But then you've got another opportunity. Just recently kind of developed, and we didn't know if it was going to happen. Tell them what's going to happen this summer.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so Pastor Sherman came to my demo and stuff, and then afterwards he's like, hey, you should take Mango to Alaska on that mission trip. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. I thought he was kidding, because he's that kind of guy, he's funny and everything. And so I was like, okay, that's great. Never even crossed my mind that I'd be able to take my dog on a mission trip. And so the next day was Wednesday, and I was like, "Are you serious?" He was like, "I'm gonna take you up on that if you were." And he's like, "Yeah, I was completely serious." I was like, "No way." And so I was like, "Oh my goodness." And so like we were trying to get it approved and everything, and it took a little while, but we got it approved. So Mango's officially going on a mission trip.
There's a bunch of kids, and I mean, you think Alaska, but there's actually some real poverty areas. It's a melting pot. There's all kinds of races there, and so we're going to go and minister at this place, and I'm thinking, man, they are going to love this. And a husky in Alaska, hello, I did a ride. There we go. So now, let's just kind of give them a taste of kind of what. You have a lot. I mean, a ton of lessons. I mean, there's a ton. I'm like, man, you can speak for a week with everything you have here, but give them a taste of like one illustration of how you share the gospel, but yet you use mango. This is really cool. You got to see this.
All right. Well, one of them is chocolate. Chocolate, if you don't know, is poisonous to dogs. It can make them extremely sick, or it could even possibly kill them, depending on how much they eat. And in my analogy, the chocolate represents sin to us. And I love Mango, and I care about him, and he's the dog that I really wanted for a very long time. And so I care about this dog, right? And so I'm going to try to keep that away from him, because I don't want him to get sick, and I don't want him to have that kind of pain. And so I'm going to try really hard to keep it away. And we're the same way with God. It's like, okay, well, God loves us so much. And that's the whole point. I mean, not the whole point, but that's part of the point of the Bible. Is there's so many things in the Bible, and you might think it's like, oh, he's just telling me what to do. And it's not the case. The reason God puts those things, stay away from this and stay away from that, is because God knows the outcome of what could happen if you were to give into that temptation, or to do that, or tell that lie, or steal that, or whatever. He knows the penalty for it. And he doesn't want you to have to pay that penalty, because he loves you and he cares about you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this chocolate, and I'm going to kind of offer it to Mango, and I'm going to give him a command. I'm going to say, leave it. Do not take that. And right then he's going to have a choice. He can take it or he can leave it. All right? But it's up to him. I'm telling him what I want him to do, but it's his choice. And if he leaves it, then I have something much better planned for him. I'm going to put this down for a second. Look. Leave it.
By the way, if you're wondering, what did she give her? It's cheese. I know high schoolers that would do stuff like that for cheese. They would. I'll stay away. Yeah. Of course, I think girls, why can't the chocolate be like the cheese? Okay.
So, this chocolate represents sin, and he did the right thing. He didn't just leave it. He backed away from it. He's like, I'm getting away from that. You said to leave it, and you said to leave it for a reason. So he's like, okay, I'm gone. And so that's what we should do. When God says, leave this, don't touch that. It's a bomb. Don't touch that. Then we should be like, okay, walk it away. We shouldn't just stand there and be like, that really looks good. I really want it. And no. And so another thing is, I lost my train of thought. So the chocolate, do you think it might look good to Mango? Yeah, it probably does. This probably looks like really good, and it probably would taste good at the moment, wouldn't it? It probably would. But his mind is not capable of understanding and knowing the pain, the suffering, and even possibly the death that simple piece of chocolate could have caused him. But guess what? I know that. I know the pain, the suffering, and the death that could cause him, and it might bring him momentary enjoyment, but ultimately, I don't want him to have it, because the bad outweighs the good. His sinful desire would say, take it. You want it. You want to take it. But he chose to listen to me. He might not have known why I said to leave it, but he listened, and he did the right thing, and he got rewarded for doing the right thing.
That's awesome. Isn't that cool? That's so cool. Now, I tell you what's just exciting is